3 decades, one institution has claimed the power to define what rock and roll really means. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't just a building in Cleveland, it's a cultural landmark, a stage where legends are crowned, and sometimes where controversy explodes. Since the doors opened in 1995, millions of fans have made the pilgrimage, hoping to stand in the presence of the artists who shaped their lives. But just as many have walked away questioning whether the hall is truly honoring the spirit of rock or rewriting it. Because here's the truth, the hall has never been just about celebrating music. It's about power, influence, and legacy. Who gets in, who gets left out, and what those choices say about the future of rock. Over the years, we've seen emotional speeches, jaw-dropping performances, and yes, some pretty shocking snubs. Prince's legendary guitar solo in 2004, Nirvana's reunion with a new generation of singers in 2014, even bands like Metallica or Kiss waiting decades for recognition while others slipped in without a fight. Every year brings both unforgettable moments and heated debates. And now, as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame marks its 30th anniversary, the stakes feel higher than ever. The class of 2025 is packed with names that stretch the very meaning of rock and roll. From icons like Cyndi Lauper and Soundgarden to genre-bending trailblazers like Outkast and the White Stripes, the lineup is already dividing fans. Some are celebrating it as proof that the hall is evolving with the times. Others are furious, saying the hall has abandoned rock altogether. But that's not the only headline. This year, one of the inductees, Chubby Checker, made the stunning announcement that he's skipping his own induction. At 83 years old, the man who gave the world the twist said he'd rather perform for his fans than sit in a theater for a televised event. His decision lit up the internet. Was it a bold statement against the hall's politics? Or simply a farewell gesture from a man who wants to go out on his own terms? One thing is clear, 30 years in, the Rock Hall is more than just a museum. It's a battlefield of opinions, a business that's pumped billions into Cleveland's economy, and a symbol of how music history gets written and rewritten. So as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame celebrates its 30th year, one question looms over everything: is this truly the legacy of rock and roll? Or has the definition of rock been changed forever? Back in the mid-1980s, when talk of a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame first began, the idea was met with excitement and skepticism. Could a single institution really capture the wild, rebellious spirit of rock and roll? And more importantly, where would it even be built? Cities like New York, San Francisco, and Memphis all wanted the honor, but in the end, Cleveland won the fight. Why? Because in 1952, local DJ Alan Freed had coined the phrase rock and roll on a Cleveland radio station. That connection to the birth of the genre gave the city a powerful claim, and after years of lobbying, Cleveland sealed the deal. By 1995, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame officially opened its doors. The building itself, designed by world-famous architect I. Milleters, PEI, was meant to look futuristic, bold, and impossible to ignore, just like the music it represented. Fans lined up for opening day, stepping inside a glass pyramid filled with guitars, costumes, handwritten lyrics, and priceless memorabilia. It was more than just a museum. It was pitched as the cathedral of rock, a place where legends could live forever. But from the very beginning, the hall was more than just a tourist attraction. It quickly became the judge, jury, and gatekeeper of rock history. Each year, a new class of inductees was chosen, and with every announcement came arguments. Fans celebrated when their favorite artists were honored, but when others were left out, sometimes for decades, the backlash was fierce. Still, the promise of seeing history enshrined kept people watching. By the late 90s, the induction ceremonies had already become must-see events, filled with unforgettable speeches and once-in-a-lifetime collaborations on stage. And that was just the start, because the Rock Hall was about to grow from a local landmark into a global authority on what rock and roll really means. But what truly cemented its reputation were the legendary performances that followed, moments so powerful that even decades later, fans still talk about them. What kept fans glued to the Rock Hall year after year weren't just the names being inducted, it was the moments that happened on stage. Some of these performances became the stuff of legend, like in 2004 when Prince unleashed a guitar Solo during While My Guitar Gently Weeps that left even George Harrison's son in awe. Or in 2014, when Nirvana reunited, bringing out a lineup of female rockers like Joan Jett and St. Vincent to honor Kurt Cobain's legacy. Even Metallica's Induction turned into a spectacle, proving the Hall could still deliver pure raw energy. These nights weren't just concerts, they were history unfolding in real time, reminding fans why the Rock Hall mattered in the first place. But alongside the magic, there was always tension. Because for every artist celebrated, there were just as many left out. If the Rock Hall is a temple of legends, it's also a battlefield of criticism. For every celebrated moment, there's been outrage over who wasn't inducted. Fans of bands like Kiss, Deep Purple, and Rush waited decades before the Hall finally let them in, while other artists, like Chubby Checker, have been snubbed so long that Checker himself has blasted the Hall publicly, even refusing to show up if he ever does get invited. And it's not just the omissions. The Hall has faced constant fire over what counts as rock and roll. When artists like Madonna, Tupac, and Dolly Parton were inducted, purists accused the Hall of betraying its name, but supporters argued rock has always been about breaking rules and embracing every influence. These controversies gave the Hall a reputation for drama, turning each new class announcement into a storm of debate. And as the Hall hit its 30th year, those tensions were still alive, proving the story was far from over. Fast forward to 2025, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is proving that even after 30 years, it can still stir up excitement and controversy. This year's class is one of the most talked about in recent memory. For fans of Cyndi Lauper, it's a long overdue victory. After years of being overlooked, Lauper is finally getting her spot in the Hall, a recognition many argue should have happened decades ago. Her induction is being celebrated not just as a win for her, but for the countless fans who grew up on her anthems of individuality and rebellion. Then there's Outkast. Some critics said a hip-hop duo doesn't belong in the Rock Hall, but supporters fired back, reminding everyone that Outkast didn't just change rap, they reshaped popular music. Their influence stretched across genres, making their induction a statement about how wide the definition of rock and roll has truly become. Soundgarden's induction carried an emotional weight. For many, it felt like a long overdue tribute to Chris Cornell, a voice that defined a generation and was lost too soon. Fans saw it not just as recognition of the band, but as a way of keeping Cornell's legacy alive on one of music's biggest stages. And if that wasn't enough, the White Stripes made the cut too, proof that the Hall is still willing to honor the raw, stripped-down spirit of rock in the modern era. Jack White and Meg White's garage rock revival in the early 2000s still resonates, and their induction felt like the Hall acknowledging a fresh but undeniable legacy. But even with all the celebration, drama wasn't far behind. The biggest headline: Chubby Checker once again refusing to attend, even though fans argue his song The Twist literally changed American culture. Checker made it clear he won't step foot inside the Rock Hall, blasting the institution for disrespecting him for decades. His absence cast a shadow over the event, fueling another round of debate about how the Hall decides who's in and who's out. The 2025 class showed exactly why the Rock Hall remains so fascinating. Every induction is a celebration, but also a spark for new controversies. And as fans argued online, one question kept popping up: what does rock and roll even mean anymore? The 2025 class made one thing clear: the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't just honoring guitar riffs and leather jackets anymore. It's redefining what rock can be. Outkast's induction, alongside acts like Sold and PEPA receiving the Musical Influence Award, shows that the Hall is embracing artists who pushed boundaries, blurred genres, and influenced entire generations, whether or not they fit the classic rock band mold. This shift hasn't been without controversy. Purists argue that rock is losing its identity, that by welcoming hip-hop, pop, and experimental sounds, the Hall is watering down the raw energy that made the genre iconic. Others say evolution is exactly what rock is all about: challenging norms, breaking rules, and absorbing influences that keep the music alive. Even the White Stripes induction illustrates this tension. Their minimalist, garage rock sound stands in stark contrast to the polished stadium rock of earlier inductees, reminding fans that rock isn't a single style, it's an attitude. Every new class sparks debates, fan arguments online, and passionate discussions in music circles, proving that the Hall is as much about conversation as it is about celebration. Redefinition doesn't mean compromise, it means rock is alive, evolving, and sometimes controversial, just like it always was. Beyond the music and the controversies, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has left a tangible mark on Cleveland and the world. Over 30 years, it has transformed the city into a destination for fans from across the globe, pumping billions of dollars into the local economy. Hotels, restaurants, and shops have all benefited from the thousands who make the pilgrimage each year, proving that rock and roll isn't just cultural, it's economic power. But its influence isn't only measured in dollars. The Hall has shaped how generations remember music, turning once ordinary moments into legendary history. Students visit school programs to learn about the pioneers of rock, musicians study artifacts for inspiration, and casual fans experience the thrill of seeing iconic guitars, handwritten lyrics, and costumes up close. The Hall has become a living archive, capturing decades of music innovation while influencing future artists. And yet, even as it celebrates its economic and cultural footprint, the Hall continues to provoke debate. Fans question who truly belongs, who's overlooked, and what it means to leave a lasting legacy. In doing so, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame reminds everyone that rock and roll isn't static, it's a living, breathing force that continues to shape both culture and commerce. As the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame enters its fourth decade, its influence on music and culture is undeniable. Every inductee, every performance, and even every controversy contributes to a larger story about how we define rock and roll. By recognizing artists from diverse genres, classic rock, hip-hop, punk, and beyond, the Hall is shaping a legacy that's broader and more inclusive than ever before. New generations are discovering the artists who paved the way while also seeing how modern acts push boundaries in their own right. Outkast, the White Stripes, and even overlooked pioneers like Salt and P.E.P.A. demonstrate that rock spirit isn't limited to a single sound or era. It's about rebellion, innovation, and cultural impact, qualities that the Hall now celebrates alongside technical skill and stage presence. At the same time, the Hall's choices continue to spark conversation. Fans debate the merits of each class, question why certain legends were snubbed, and argue over what truly counts as rock. In doing so, the Rock Hall doesn't just preserve history, it keeps the dialogue about music alive, forcing us to consider not only the past but also how today's artists will be remembered decades from now. In short, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't just document a legacy, it actively shapes it, ensuring that rock and roll remains a living, evolving force that inspires and challenges audiences around the world. 30 years of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have shown us that music is more than just notes and lyrics, it's influence, rebellion, and legacy. From its early days in Cleveland to today's star-studded ceremonies, the Hall has celebrated icons, sparked debates, and reminded fans why rock and roll continues to matter. This 30th anniversary isn't just a milestone, it's a reflection of how far the genre has come and how it continues to evolve. From the long overdue recognition of artists like Cyndi Lauper to the inclusion of genre-defying acts like Outkast and the White Stripes, the Hall proves that rock isn't confined to one sound or era. And even controversies like Chubby Checker skipping his induction only reinforce the Hall's role as a living, breathing force in music history. So as the Hall looks ahead to its next decades, one question lingers: how will future artists redefine rock and roll, and who will decide which legacies are remembered? One thing is certain, rock and roll is far from finished, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will be there to tell its story every step of the way.